for horror and Halloween. I got a special video for you today. Even though it is not movie centered or media centered, it kind of has a connection. Today, in honor of the fact that we are getting closer to an event called Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando Resort in Florida, I thought I would show off some items from the event. Actually, I'm wearing a shirt from Halloween Horror Nights 2019 or Halloween Horror Nights 29. It says Maximum Screamage. The theme was like 80s arcade-esque and everything. So I thought I would just come on as we get closer and closer, show off some memorabilia, some merchandise from the event's long running, soon to be 31-year run. So today I have some maps to show off. Now I don't have every single map like from the very beginning, but I have maps ranging from 2016 all the way to last year's 30th anniversary in 2021. Before we get started, as always, if you enjoy all things physical media, whether it be movie novels, 4Ks, steelbooks, DVDs, video games, Funko Pops, playbills, all that jazz, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop the like, hit a like, drop a like if you enjoyed today's video, and just enjoy. With all that being said, let's jump into our first map. We have the map from 2006 Halloween Horror Nights Sweet 16. The event, this particular map was from, had the times from 6:30 to 2 a.m., running from October 6th to the 28th. So that was this particular time. So on the front you have like the main four icons, the director, Jack the Clown, the caretaker, and the storyteller. Real quick before I continue going with this, if you don't know about Halloween Horror Nights, it is the nation's #1 premier Halloween event that takes place in Universal Orlando Resort and Universal Studios Hollywood in California. The event at Orlando has been now going on for 31 years. This year will be its 31st year. And it started a long time ago, back like 19 something, and it started as Universal's Fright Nights, and the icons were the Universal Monsters and Beetlejuice, and it was on the last 3 nights of October. And it had one house called the Dungeon of Terror, and it was just a test to see what if Universal did this adult-oriented horror festival. And throughout the years it has grown, and in the year 2000 we started seeing icons, and the very first icon was Jack the Clown right here, and he's been like the main like ringmaster of the whole thing when it comes to its icons and everything. So in 2006 they celebrated the 16th anniversary with Sweet 16, where all the icons came home. So you got this wonderful map with red up at the top, and on the back it talks about the frequent fear pass, and of course the After Party and City Walk. Go ahead and open it. You got like the park information, survival tips, explaining about the Halloween Horror Nights Express Pass, and what will happen to you if you fail to follow the rules. Also showcasing some merchandise, including the legendary house shirts, one of the greatest merchandise pieces of Halloween Horror Nights. You have to get a house shirt. And this was before IPs became a thing, and I'll explain IPs once we get to the next map. And here you have the map itself. You have Scream House, All Night Diane, Psychoscarapy, Run, Psychopath, People Under the Stairs, and Dungeon of Terror. The two shows featured that year were Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, The Arrival, Sweet 16, The Director's Cut, and Robosaurus. Um, the scare zones were Blood Masquerade, Dead Tropolis, Zombie Siege, and Harvest of Souls. The opening rides that were running that night were Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast, or during this year, Shrek 4D, Twister Ride It Out, Revenge of the Mummy, Beetlejuice's Graveyard Review, Earthquake, Jaws, Men in Black, Alien Attack, Terminator 2 3D, and E.T. Adventure. Now, in 2007, everything changed for Halloween Horror Nights as they were finally able to use IPs, intellectual properties. Now, when I say intellectual properties, I'm talking about like The Walking Dead, Halloween, Ghostbusters, Freddy vs. Jason, Frankenstein. Well, I mean, they already own that. Chucky, Leatherface, yada yada yada. I can go on and on. And three of those, or two of those, because I mentioned the other one and I combined, were offered at Halloween Horror Nights in 2007, and it was called Jack's Carnival of Carnage, and it featured Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Leatherface. This particular map was dedicated to October 5th and 6th from 6:30 to 2 o'clock. Again, on the back, has the frequent fear pass and the after party at City Walk. Inside, you'll notice a similar color pattern, and of course, on this side, you have your merchandise, and there was even a there was a giveaway going on that if you texted this number over here, you could have won Jack's limited edition Volkswagen GTI, and it also came with this cool frequent fear pass insert that at the time was just $10 if you want to upgrade your screen experience. Open it up, same color, venue again, and this time your houses were Dead Silence, The Curse of Mary Shaw, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Dreamwalkers, Psychoscarapy, Home for the Holidays, Vampire Bloodbath, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Flesh Wounds, Friday the 13th, Camp Blood, Jack's Funhouse in Clownovision, and The Thing Assimilation. And the shows this year were Jack's Carnival of Carnage, Freak Show, Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now they didn't actually have, was a tribute. Now they didn't actually have scare zones, it was more like roaming hordes. And I can't really say what, I didn't really go. I didn't go during 2007. My first year was in 2012, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Next up, one of the most amazing years, some would say, is an not talked about icon, but started a really cool trend that has became part of like the lore of Halloween Horror Nights, and that was in 2008 with Bloody Mary. This particular map was for October 3rd and 4th, where the event times were from 6:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning. We see a little bit change in color on this map, with red and some more darker tones. And again inside, you got your park information and your merchandise. And as we open up, you got the inside of your map. Again, we see a dramatic change in color in this map. The houses this time were Creatures, Interstellar Terror, Body Collectors, Collections of the Past, Doomsday, Reflections of Fear, Dead Exposure, The Hollow, and Scary Tales Once Upon a Nightmare. The scare zones this year were The Path of the Wicked, Streets of Blood, American Gothic, Asylum in Wonderland, The Schoolhouse, and Fractured Tales. And the shows were the Rocky Horror Picture Show Tribute for a second year, Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, and with a performance from Brian Bushwood, who I believe is a magician. Yeah, he was a magician. And the rides that were operating this year were Revenge of the Mummy, Disaster, Jaws, Men in Black Alien Attack, and the brand new Simpsons ride. On to the next map. In 2009, we were introduced to yet another amazing director, not director, sorry, icon, that we may think may have some sort of influence. I think. I'm not saying it's true, it's not. I would like to see influence this year, and that is the Usher from Halloween Horror Nights 2009, ripped from the silver screen. This particular map was explaining the times for October 2nd to the October 2nd, 3rd, 9th, 10th, 16th, and 17th from 6:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning. We are back to that like yellowish red color on the map. And as we open it up, again, we got like that same color tone. And of course, you got your merchandise with, of course, the coveted house shirt and the kind of lingo logo was it's showtime. Um, and the main pin for this year was a Saw pin. This was the first year that Saw was featured at the event, also along with Chucky as well. And we have some color now in the logos for the houses. This was, again, I didn't go during this year, but this had some really amazing houses, including the reboot of The Wolfman, Dracula, Legacy in Blood, Frankenstein, Creation of the Damned, Leave It to Cleaver, presented by Fangoria, Saw, The Spawning, also presented by Fangoria, Chucky, Friends Till the End, and the main house of the year, surrounded by the icon, the Usher, and the event was Silver Screams. And the scare zones this year were Containment, War of the Living Dead, Apocalypse, City of Cannibals, Cirque the Freak, which was based on the movie and the book series of the same name, Horrorwood Die-In, and Lights, Camera, Action. The shows this year were once again back for its third year, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, a tribute, and again, Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. And the shows that were running this year, the rides that were running this year, were Revenge of the Mummy, Jaws, The Simpsons ride, and Men in Black Alien Attack. This year saw a dramatic change in attractions that were running, whereas in recent years there was a more list of attractions that kind of saw as a way for if you wanted to just get away, take a break from walking, and just, feel some AC. Then we get to the biggie. One of the big anniversary ones. In 2010, we saw the arrival of Fear for Halloween Horror Nights 20 Years of Fear, or HHNXX. This particular map was showing the times for September 24th, 25th, 30th, and October 3rd, running from 6:30 to midnight. If you're going to do Halloween Horror Nights, do not go on a night that goes from 6:30 to midnight. If you want to get the best out of it, go from like a 6:30 to 2 o'clock night. It will die down. There will be people that will be leaving, trust me. So on the front you have Fear's Lantern with a nice yellow up at the top. And then of course you got the advertisement about the frequent Fear Pass, and of course the after party at City Walk. Same information, park info, survival tips, and of course your merchandise. This year we saw a lot of influence from Fear, and this kind of kicked off a new age of darkness, as it says on the shirt. A new age of darkness begins, and you had two pins this year: the shot glasses, shooter glasses, and um, other things as well. And we go ahead and pop open our map. We have a little less color tone in this one when it comes to the logos, but still a nice color tone on the map. And the houses this year was the main house: Horror Nights, The Hollowed Pass, Catacombs, Black Death Rising, Havoc, Dogs of War, The Orphanage, Ashes to Ashes, Zombie Geddon, Hades, The Gates of Ruin, Psychoscarapy, Echoes of Shady Brook, and Legendary Truth, The Wyandotte Estate. The scare zones this year were HHN 20 Years of Fear, Fear Revealed, Zombie Grows, Saws and Steam, The Coven, Esquelo Morte. I probably said that wrong and I'm so sorry. What I love about this map is that each of the icons on the map, like right up here and right up here, and even the scare zone ones, like right there and right there, they're miniature lanterns. And the shows this year were, for the first time in 3 years, from like 2009, 2008, and 2007, there was no Rocky Horror Picture Show. So the two shows were Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure and Brian Bushwood. And then again, we only saw 4 attractions running this year: The Simpsons Ride, Men in Black, Alien Attack, Jaws, and Revenge of the Mummy. And the House of the Year for 2010 was Havoc, Dogs of War, and the Scare Zone of the Year was HHN 20 Years of Fear. Sorry I didn't mention the House of the Year for the rest of them and everything. I'm not going to go back. Sorry. I'll go back. So, House of the Year for 2006 was Scream House, The Resurrection, and the Scare Zone of the Year was Harvest of Souls. So that was for Sweet 16. Jack's Carnival of Carnage. House of the Year was A Nightmare on Elm Street Dreamwalkers. And Scare Zone of the Year, there was no Scare Zone of the Year, because there really was no Scare Zone. In Reflections of Fear, or Bloody Mary, in 2008, I don't remember what House of the Year was, or Scare Zone of the Year. I guess I didn't circle it. Oh well. 2009, Ripped from the Silver Screen. House of the Year went to Dracula, Legacy in Blood, and House of the Year went to War of the Living Dead. Alright, and back on track now. We go to Halloween Horror Nights 2011, or HHN 21, with Lady Luck. This had a really cool story this entire year. Each of the houses were connected to decisions that the characters made, whether they wanted to listen to what Lady Luck was offering them, or they had a path to choose. And when you play with the house, luck always wins. So yeah, we have Lady Luck on the front. I like to say like a Temptress she was, or like a Siren, because that's what I feel like she was. And you do see a style change in like font, and of course you have like the clubs up here and everything. And of course your merchandise, which had a really cool pin, and there was an annual pass holder pin as well. The houses for this year was The Forsaken, The In-Between, Nevermore, The Madness of Poe, Saws and Steam, Into the Machine, which was adapted from the Scare Zone. The Thing, HR Blood and Guts presents Holidays of Horror, Nightingale's Blood Prey, and Winter's Night, The Haunting of Hawthorne Cemetery. The Scare Zones were Your Luck Has Run Out, 7, Acid Assault, Night Maze, Grown Evil, and Canyon of Dark Souls. The shows this year were Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure and Deaf Drums, and the rides this year that were operating were Hollywood Bit by Rocket, Revenge of the Mummy, Jaws, Men in Black, Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride. The House of the Year for 2011 was The In-Between and The Forsaken. There was a tie. And the Scare Zone for HHN 21 was 7, which depicted the 7 deadly sins. We move on to my very first year, which was HHN 22 for Halloween, which was for 2012, which represented Alice Cooper, Silent Hill in honor of the reboot of Silent Hill, and for the first time at the event, we saw the dreaded Walking Dead. We'll get into that more. So on the front, there were 3 different versions of this map. Silent Hill, Alice Cooper, and Walking Dead. This is the Silent Hill version. And on the back, of course, you got just a regular black tone talking about the frequent fear base and the after party at City Walk. You open it up, get your park information and your survival tips as always, and of course talking about the Halloween Horror Nights Express Pass. And then on the inside over here, of course, you got heavy showage of The Walking Dead as the big influence for the year this year. And it was a pin, the house shirt, and one of the slogans were the main lingo for the event was "Once you're inside, there is no way out." We saw a change in not yet. The houses this year was The Walking Dead, Silent Hill, Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare, Penn and Teller, Newt, Vegas, Dead End, Gothic, and House of Horrors, which celebrated the Masters of Terror, mainly the Universal Monsters in black and white. Now, I do have another version of this map where I put the house of the year. I think it was Walking Dead, I don't remember. And there was no set scare zone. There were street experiences. The Inquisitors, these legions of horror, vampires, beasts, warriors, prisoners, and traditionals. Your rides that were available during this year was Hollywood Bit by Rocket, Revenge of the Mummy, Men in Black, Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride, and Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. Really weird that was running during Halloween Horror Nights. I know that changed over the course of the year. And the 2 shows that were represented during this year were Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure and 20 Penny Circus, Fully Exposed. Next, we get into Halloween Horror Nights 23, 2013, where the saying was, "What evil has taken root?" This is the second year that we see The Walking Dead, and we also see Evil Dead and Cabin in the Woods, the reboot of the Evil Dead. So we do have some nice color on here. This is the map featuring The Walking Dead. Then on the back, we have white and black with like vines growing out. Again, got your park safety and your survival tips as always. And then you have your merchandise. And I believe it said, so this is what evil tastes like. And then we have the inside of our map, where we got the color coming back to the logos. And the main IPs for this year were Cabin in the Woods, Resident Evil, American Werewolf in London, Evil Dead, and The Walking Dead. So the main houses this year were The Cabin in the Woods, Resident Evil, Escape from Raccoon City, American Werewolf in London, which got House of the Year, Evil Dead, Havoc 2, Derailed, Afterlife, Death's Vengeance, the 3D house of that year, Urban Legends, La Llorona, and The Walking Dead, No Safe Haven. The scare zones, there was no scare zones again. The park was abducted by these street experiences that were dedicated to The Walking Dead, The Undead Streets. And the shows this year, making an epic return, since 2010, 2009 was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. A tribute came back, and of course, Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. And the rides that were available during this year were Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, the brand new Transformers The Ride 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, Men in Black Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride. Halloween Horror Nights 23 saw a big change in the park because of this area right here. Jaws was closed, and they were preparing to build Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Diagon Alley. Then we move on to what was one of the epic years, and that was Halloween Horror Nights 24. And the reason why I say that, because it was the year that we finally got to see Halloween come to life at Halloween Horror Nights. The original Halloween, that's right. This year was a great year for IPs. It had Halloween, Alien vs. Predator, the brand new Dracula Untold, and Walking Dead came back again. So, as you can see, it was starting to get very repetitive. On the back, we have the ticket upgrades this time. Not talking about the after party at City Walk, that's more on the inside of the map. And you have like this kind of like tan color tone with like hints of red and everything. And you have your merchandise, which says Zombie Brat or Zombie Bait. It doesn't show the house shirt. I forget what the house shirt for this was. Fear Will Eat You Alive. That's what it was called. And we have our map. And again, the main IPs this year were the main IPs of the event was the show version from the LA Network, From Dusk Till Dawn, Walking Dead, End of the Line, Halloween, AVP, Alien vs. Predator, and Dracula Untold, Reign of Blood. And the remainder of the houses were Giggles and Gore Incorporated, Dollhouse of the Damned, and Roanoke. This year, the two houses that got House of the Year, because there was a tie, was Halloween, and it deserved it, and Dollhouse of the Damned, which really deserved it. That house was way beyond awesome, and it was just a fantastic house. If you're ever able to go on YouTube, you can find a walkthrough of it. It is an amazing house. Scare zones returned, finally. They were noted as street experience, but they were the return of scare zones. We had Masquerade, Unstitched, The Purge, Anarchy, which was the first time that The Purge was welcomed to Halloween Orlando for Halloween Horror Nights. Bayou of Blood, and Face Off in the Flesh, which actually around this year got a house at Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood, which was really cool. And the scare zone of the year was The Purge, Anarchy. And the two shows, again making another triumphant return, was the Rocky Horror Picture Show, a tribute, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. The attractions, once again, Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, Transformers The Ride 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, Men in Black Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride. This year was really cool because of Michael Myers, and I cannot wait for him to come back. At the end of the video, we are going to discuss what is coming so far for Halloween Horror Nights 31, so stick around. Then we get to the return of the clown, Prince of Horror himself, and we see some of our favorite icons come back as well. With Halloween Horror Nights 25, Jack is back. The 25th anniversary in 2015 saw the return of Jack, along with the return of The Walking Dead, Freddy vs. Jason, and introducing Insidious. On the back you have the ticket upgrades, and of course social media to share your screens, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Vine, and YouTube with the hashtag HHN25. Lots of fun stuff in this map. Of course, you got a beautiful rendition of Jack. You got your merchandise, which has an amazing horror alumni which for some reason the shirt features Chucky. I don't know why. He's not really considered an icon, it's just they love using him a lot and everything, so. And this was the first year that we saw the arrival of a Halloween Horror Nights tribute store, which was inside Aftermath, the gift shop for Twister Ride It Out, which sadly was closing. And we saw an upgrade and a change to the map here. I know it's kind of hard to see with this new open up style. So, I'll do this. You got your houses and the map itself. Now this one didn't really showcase the logos, it did, but not like in full picture, just in color. The houses this year were Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem, The Return of a Fan Favorite, An American Werewolf in London, Freddy vs. Jason, Body Collectors Recollections, Run, Blood, Sweat and Fears, Insidious, The Purge, AMC, The Walking Dead, The Living and the Dead, and Asylum in Wonderland, which was the first year that they used the second theater for Shrek 4D for a Halloween Horror Nights house. The scare zones this year were Scary Tales, Scream Punk, the next chapter in the Scary Tales stories, Psycho Scarapy Unleashed, All Night Die-In double feature, which was a very awesome scare zone, in front of what is now known as Fast and Furious Supercharged. At the time it was known as Earthquake or Disaster Ride It Out, Evil's Roots, and Icons HHN. The two shows this year, unfortunately, Rocky Horror Picture Show A Tribute did not return, and instead we have Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure and The Carnage Returns, which was such an amazing show. Again, you can find it on YouTube, and you just have to watch it. It is fantastic. The rides that were operating this year were Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, Transformers The Ride 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, the all-new Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, Men in Black Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride. The House of the Year was 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem, and the Scare Zone of the Year was Evil's Roots. This year was HHN 25 was awesome for me because I got to meet all the icons. I didn't get to meet Jack, but I got to see Jack, I got to see Chance, I got to meet Storyteller, Caretaker, Usher, Director, and this year was just really cool because that HHN Icons Scare Zone was really freaking cool. So it was really awesome this year. And here is one fun thing about HHN 26. No more Walking Dead. We saw the end of the dead. HHN 26 was a continuation of Halloween Horror Nights 25, where Jack had returned to his box, but Chance was nowhere to go. So she got caught, thrown in the asylum, went a little cuckoo, and basically the entirety of the event is taking place in her theater of the mind, and we are the audience walking through. And this was a really cool story and a great continuation from Halloween Horror Nights 25. Great lineup of houses, including American Horror Story from FX, The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre made a return from its last run in 2007, and again we saw the end of The Walking Dead. This was one of the best Walking Dead houses because it featured every single season that was available that Halloween Horror Nights has done. So that was really cool. Nice way to go out with a bang. And inside we have some nice art and color in here. Of course, with the merchandise, You Won't Stand a Chance, of course, was the lingo. And then, of course, on the back you have your ticket upgrades, and of course, share the scares with with hashtag HHN26. We're gonna go ahead and open the map and fold the map. So here we have our Oops. Oh no. Here we have our houses and our map itself. Now, what was different about this year, aside from it being a continuation from 2015, was there was a special edition experience that you had to pay for called the repository. Um, I didn't do it, so I can't really say what exactly it was. It was a virtual reality thingy that happened, like an escape room. And the haunted houses this year was American Horror Story, of course, represented by FX, The Walking Dead, Tomb of the Ancients, The Exorcist, Lunatic's Playground 3D, You Won't Stand a Chance, Halloween, Hell Comes to Haddonfield, Ghost Town, The Curse of Lightning Gulch, which was a sequel to an original house called Ghost Town, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was represented by the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Krampus, which was the second house to be used in the Shrek Theater. The scare zones this year was A Chance in Hell, which was a continuation of Lunatic's Playground 3D, The House, Survive or Die Apocalypse, Dead Man's Wharf, which was, it was okay. There was at one point where I was like so tired I actually said to the scare actor, can you do me a favor and go and just scare me? And the guy's like, and I'm like, thank you. And I just continued walking. Lair of the Banshee, and one of my most favorite scare zones, which I believe won the Scare Zone of the Year for this year. I have multiple maps, and I think I noted it in Vamp 55. This scare zone was so cool. I made some friends in that scare zone with the scare actors and everything. So, and our shows, the shows for this year was Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, and the introduction of one of the most, they were good until we found out all the stuff that was going on with them, Academy of Villains House of Fear. There was no overall arcing show for this year with like Chance being in control. I think that would have been cool, like a continuation of the Carnage, where it's like, you know, Chance had rain and everything. I think that would have been really cool to do a show like that. Don't get me wrong, Academy of Villains was really cool and a very entertaining show to see. And the rides this year were, we see a change in rides with one ride not being on here. Hollywood Ride Rocket, Transformers The Ride 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, Gringotts, Men in Black, Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride. I believe Despicable Me was not available during 25 as well, so I may have been wrong, but yeah, not available during this year. Then we go to Halloween Horror Nights 27, where your soul is requested. Again, no icon for this, but it felt like there was someone that was an icon. And the main like scare zone of this year that was like overarching this was called the Festival of the Deadliest. This map has a really nice color tone, not just only on the front, but on the back. It has like this like marble look to it. And again, I love the colors that were represented this year. The main IPs that stuck out was The Shining, Saw, and American Horror Story Volume 2. We saw the return of Saw since HHN 2009 for Halloween Horror Nights 19, and the reason why we had Saw at the event was because the brand new Jigsaw was coming out. This house was good, but it was also like we're basically getting scared at their pain and them reaching at us. The house wasn't bad, but it took place in the Shrek Theater, and I just think it maybe would have been better if it was in a sound stage. Inside, again, you have that continuation of that marble color. And of course, with the merchandise. Go ahead and open up the map here. Again, you have your list of the map, and then you have the map itself. Starting off with our houses, of course, the IPs and everything. American Horror Story, Take 2, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, really good house. The Fallen, which was a combination. This year we saw it was a like hybrid houses where we saw some scare zones or houses that were combined into representing um, one house together. So, like, you had a house called The Fallen, which represented catacombs and Gothic. Then you had Dead Waters, which you had Bloodwater Bayou or Deathwater Bayou. That might be Hollow Scream. There was a Bayou House scare zone in 2014, and this was the house. The Voodoo Queen returned and everything. And then for the first time in Halloween Horror Nights history, we had Blumhouse be represented as a triple feature featuring Insidious because of the Insidious, the key or whatever, Sinister, and The Purge came back. Um, Speaking of The Purge, 2005 and 2015, we had The Purge as a house. It wasn't supposed to be a house. It was a confusing house. We were supposed to have Scream. We wanted Scream. We didn't get Scream. Give us Scream. From there we go on to Hive, which was really cool. Featured like vampires and everything. Of course, taking place in Cary, Ohio. One of the best freaking houses of Halloween Horror Nights 27. Scarecrow, The Reaping, which won House of the Year for 27 for 2017. Netflix's Ash vs. Evil Dead, which brought us back to the infamous cabin from Evil Dead, and Saw. Like I told you, it was representing Jigsaw. So our IPs for this year were American Horror Story, Shining, Blumhouse, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and Saw. Our scare zones were Altars of Horror, The Purge, just as Purge, Invasion, Trick or Treat, and Festival of the Deadliest. Trick or Treat won Scare Zone of the Year and got its own house in 2018, which we'll get to in a little bit. The attractions that were open during this year were Hollywood Riptide Rocket, Transformers The Ride 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, Men in Black Alien Attack, and The Simpsons Ride. And the shows this year were Bill and Ted Excellent Halloween Adventure and Academy of Villains Afterlife. Although it wasn't originally called that, there was a massive hurricane that happened in 2017, and at first their show had to be changed to The Irma Show. I got to be part of it. I can't tell you the channel that I'm in because I don't remember, but I got to be part of the show in the guest interaction portion. It was fun. Then we move on to 2018 Halloween Horror Nights 28, which I like to call the horrors of the 80s, because a lot of the properties, the IPs, were from the 80s, or had representation of the 80s. For instance, Stranger Things being the big heavily property, and 2018 was such an iconic year for Halloween Horror Nights because they introduced a 10th house, which was a fantastic house. So you have your IPs on here. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This was the first time since 2016 that we saw the return of Michael Myers come back. Stranger Things from Netflix, and Poltergeist. Poltergeist. What a house, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. You have the inside of the map with like the survival tabs, dining, shopping, merchandise. I bought a lot of merchandise from HHN28. Am I proud of it? Yes. Was my wallet proud of it? No. You got your list of the houses, and then the map itself. The houses this year for Halloween Horror Nights 28 were, of course, Stranger Things, which focused on Season 1. Carnival Graveyard Rust in Pieces, which was an homage to the history of Horror Nights and Universal a little bit. There was a lot of set pieces and props from recent Horror Nights houses and recent like Universal attractions. Scary Tales, Deadly Ever After, the next chapter in the Scary Tales series. Poltergeist, which was my absolute favorite house from Halloween Horror Nights 28. The Horrors of Blumhouse Volume 2, which featured Happy Death Day and The First Purge. Slaughter Cinema, which had wonderfully smelling popcorn fog as you entered the house. Dead Exposure Patient Zero, which was the sequel to Dead Exposure from Halloween Horror Nights 2008. Seeds of Extinction, which was a fantastic house where you couldn't tell who was real or what was moss or grass or plants. Trick or Treat, which was the house that was taken from the Scare Zone in 2017. And the Shrek house this year was Halloween 4. It did okay. It wasn't one of the best that has been done with the Halloween IP. It would have been nice if it would have been put into a soundstage. It just felt a little cramped with it being inside the Shrek Theater. The House of the Year this year went to Stranger Things, and we get down to our scare zones, which was The Harvest, Vamp 85, New Year's Eve, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, best scare zone ever, Twisted Tradition, and Revenge of Chucky, also awesome scare zone. And the scare zone of the year went to Vamp 85 New Year's Eve, which was the sequel to Vamp 55. The only show this year, there was no Bill and Ted. We saw the end of Bill and Ted from 2017. The show this year was Academy of Villains Cyberpunk. And the rides that were operating this year were Rip Ride Rocket, Transformers, Revenge of the Mummy, the brand new Fast and Furious Supercharged, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, and Men in Black Alien Attack. No Simpsons ride was running this year. And it's weird. There was no house entrance, and I mean there was a roaming horde of clowns, but the reason for why they didn't have it running, it's still unbeknownst to me. So then we go into the last of the 80s horrors with Halloween Horror Nights 29, which kind of saw like a year of neon, as you can see like in the logo up at the top. Of course, Stranger Things Season 2 and 3 being the heavy focus for this year's event. Also featuring Us and Ghostbusters. And inside again you have like that slate looking, marble looking color to the map itself. Also featuring the merchandise. And again, we go ahead and open up the map. We have the list itself right here, and the map itself. The house's main IPs this year were Ghostbusters, Stranger Things from Netflix, House of a Thousand Corpses, Us, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and Universal Monsters, along with some amazing originals, including the sequel to Nightingales, or the prequel, called Nightingale's Blood Pit, Yeti, Terror of the Yukon, which had one of the most funniest scares. If you know it, you know it. Deaths of Fear, Graveyard Games. House of the Year went to House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm surprised it didn't go to Stranger Things or Ghostbusters. I think a lot of people wanted to see it go to that, or Killer Clowns, which was adapted from the Scare Zone the following year. The Scare Zones were an arcade, Zombieland Double Tap, Rob Zombie Hillbilly Deluxe, Vikings Undead, and Vanity Ball. I believe it went to for Scare Zone of the Year. I believe it was Rob Zombie Hillbilly Deluxe, and either Vikings or Vanity Ball. I think there was a tie. And the shows, there were two this year. We had Academy of Villains Altered States, which was the last time that we would see Academy of Villains at Halloween Horror Nights. Again, if you know, you know. And the Lagoon Show, we finally got a Lagoon Show, Halloween Horror Nights, or Halloween Mayhem, Marathon of Mayhem. Uh, what a fantastic show. It really was. And the rides and attractions that were operating this year were Hollywood Red Ride Rocket, Transformers, Revenge of the Mummy, Fast and Furious, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, Men in Black, and the return of the Simpsons ride. Uh, this was the first year that I had to miss Halloween Horror Nights. I moved and I wasn't able to go, so I really wanted to experience this year because I wanted to experience Ghostbusters. So now, before we get over into the final map that I have right now, as we have caught up with time itself, um, there was this thing called COVID. There still is. And in 2020, Halloween Horror Nights was kaputki, canceled. And there was a thing called HHN Light. Now, there was an experience. It was two houses, and it was just two houses that were represented for the 30th anniversary. So I'm not going to really talk about HHN Light because there really was no map. But I am going to talk about Halloween Horror Nights 30 years, 30 years. Of course, we have Jack back yet again. Of course, bringing all of his icon friends. And on the screens back here, we have three of the main IPs, including Beetlejuice, Texas Chainsaw making a grand return since 2016, which was the first one with mixes of the second one, and Netflix's Haunting of Hill House. We have a different layout for the map here, showcasing the food and the merchandise. And then we open up the map. We have the list of houses and then the map itself. The houses this year, of course, the main IPs were Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Netflix's Haunting of Hill House, Beetlejuice, and that's it. The originals were HHN Icons Captured, Puppet Theater Captive Audience, Welcome to Scary Horror in the Heartland, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, The Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin, which won House of the Year, and Case Files Unearthed Legendary Truth, which featured our wonderful Private Eye, who is now officially an HHN icon, Boris Schuster. The scare zones for this year were 30 Years, 30 Fears, Seek and Destroy, which was kind of, we had the wrong idea, but it was a portal into the event. Seek and Destroy, which a lot of funny was talked about that. Crypt TV, Gorewood Forest, and the Scare Zone of the Year, Lights, Camera, Action, Eddie's Revenge, which was a sequel to the original Lights, Camera, Action Scare Zone. The rides this year, we saw a change again. Hollywood Red Rocket, Transformers The Ride 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, and Men in Black Alien Attack. Again, no Simpsons. And the two shows were the sequel of Marathon of Mayhem, Carnage Factory, and Halloween Nightmare Fuel, which took over the Fear Factor stage. And the Fear Factor stage, Fear Factor Live, is gone. But there is a show that is coming. We just don't know what it is. So we have now caught up with time and everything, and that is all the maps that I have. And just real quickly, I'm just gonna say, talk about what is released so far for Halloween Horror Nights 31, which is slowly but quickly approaching. So far, we have Universal Monsters making its grand return with Universal Monsters Legends Collide, where it's a battle between the Mummy, the Wolfman, and Dracula as they battle to find the Amulet of Ra, which is from Anubis. And that this is part one of the story. Part two will happen over in Hollywood. The next house is the return of Michael Myers, again, which we haven't seen since 2018, and it is Halloween, the original Halloween. Then we have Blumhouse making a return again since 2018, with this time using the movies Freaky and the most recent Black Phone starring Ethan Hawke. And as of right now, the last Halloween Horror Nights house that we have announced for Halloween Horror Nights 31 is the weekend After Hours Nightmare. As of right now, that is all that we have announced for Halloween Horror Nights 31. Hopefully the rest of the information will get released. We need the rest of the original houses, and we also need the scare zones. Construction is rapidly going on right now at Universal in Orlando, and a lot of people are really excited for this year. So, will you be going this year? What house are you looking forward to experiencing? Is it going to be your first time? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for sticking around for this incredibly long video today. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys hopefully soon in the fog, and I will see you guys next time inside the media cabinet. Peace.